In Greek, they have four words for love. Storge, S-T-O-R-G-E, means affection, the sort of love that ought to be between near relations. Philia, P-H-I-L-I-A, means friendship. Eros, E-R-O-S, is of course the love between the sexes. And agape, A-G-A-P-E, is love in the Christian sense, God's love for man and the Christian's love for the brethren.
Good morning. Hey, that was great worship. Can we thank our worship leaders? That was great. Yeah. I think it's interesting if you notice, we are kind of half the stage that we normally are. Did you notice that? Yeah or no? No. Okay, well, if you didn't notice, it's just a great opportunity for me to say thank you to some people, because typically if I was to go back here and to open this up, it would be Susical the musical. And so our stage is shrunk until Becca finishes their musical, but that reminds me to thank all the people who set up every single week, okay? Before you have your first cup of coffee, there are a lot of people who come every single week. Jeff Murphy and his team and lots of volunteers, and then the worship band comes here in the 6 o'clock hour to set this up and does their first set. So it would be a great idea for you to thank them because, yeah, go ahead, thank them. I call it Adventures in Portable Church because we never know what we're going to face when we come. So I'm just so grateful that we have people who are committed for you to have this experience, which is pretty amazing. Also, I want to thank you for wearing your name tags the third week of this For Love series. And you may have noticed that name tags have been in the news this month. In fact, Twitter blew up, went crazy because someone posted a picture of Brad Pitt at an Oscar nominee party. Now, of course, Brad Pitt at an Oscar nominee party, that makes perfect sense. But here's the picture that was posted. Brad Pitt was wearing a name tag. And of course, everybody in the room knew who Brad Pitt was, right? I mean, no big deal, but he dutifully wore his name tag. Now, a few years ago, 20 years ago, in fact, there was a guy that didn't have the same problem as Brad Pitt. In fact, nobody knew him. He was a student at the University of Miami, and he had just attended this conference that, frankly, was really uneventful. And they had made you wear a name tag to get into the conference, and he was ready by the end of that to get rid of his name tag and just leave. But as he was leaving, he passed this trash can, and there were lots of name tags that people had ripped off and thrown in the trash bag, and it kind of hit him. What if I do just the opposite? And he left his name tag on. And it was an incredibly interesting experiment. A funny thing happened. Everyone was friendlier. Girls talked to him. People noticed him, and in fact, he did not take his name tag off for 3,000 days. This guy even got a name tag tattooed to his chest, and he's still wearing his name tag 20 years later. Now, it is not a requirement here at Grace when you join the church to get a name tag tattoo, but I'm really grateful that we've been doing this experiment ourselves this past few weeks. Name tags are really a good thing. Name tags help us learn each other's names, but they represent something that's even more important. See, at Grace Church, we're going for a whole lot more than friendly. We want you to know each other's names, of course, but what we hope is that you begin to know each other's lives. What we're hoping is that you make friends. And I'm not talking about Facebook friends. I'm talking about face-to-face friends. And that's what brings us to today's love, the friendship love, philia love. Philia comes from the Greek word philos, and that simply means beloved. Philia love is this emotional bond that we have with our friends. It's this deep affection that we have with our friends. Here's how C.S. Lewis describes this love. He says, friendship arises out of mere companionship when two or more of the companions discover that they have in common some insight or interest or even taste which the others do not share, and which till that moment each believed to be his own unique treasure or burden. The typical expression of opening friendship would be something like, "What? You too? I thought I was the only one." It's when two such persons discover one another, when whether with immense difficulties and semi-articulate fumblings, or with what would seem to us amazing and elliptical speed, they share their vision. And it is then that friendship is born. And instantly, they stand together in an immense solitude. Now, C.S. Lewis also calls this friendship the love that is really dismissed. Here's what he says. He says, "To the ancients, friendship seemed the happiest and most fully human of all loves, the crown of life and the school of virtue. The modern world, in comparison, ignores it. Why? Perhaps we know it's the most time-consuming, the least celebrated, the one we could live without. Few value it because few experience it." Isn't that interesting? Lewis wrote this back in the 1950s, but he could have written it this week in the New York Times editorial. He's right. And statistics prove that out. One recent study showed that Americans have a third fewer closer friends and confidants than they did just 2 decades ago. And that certainly means that people are living more isolated and more lonely lives. In the 80s, Americans had 3 people they confided in and shared their personal life with. But by 2010, that number had dropped to 2. And 1 in 4 had no confidants at all. One of the authors of the study said this. It said, "You usually don't see that kind of big social change in a couple of decades. Close relationships are this safety net. Whether it's picking up a child or finding someone to help you out of the city in a hurricane, these are people we depend on." And the study goes on to link social isolation and loneliness to both mental and physical illness. So why are we making fewer close friends? Their articles suggest a few things. First, people move 11 times in their lives nowadays. Commuting is on the rise, and so are our work hours. Then there's Netflix and computers that keep us entertained all by ourselves at home. We stay home and we tune out. And really, we just keep finding ways to be more busy. Now, as we talk about friendship, I want to clarify that the friendships we're going to talk about today are not just casual friendships. And we're not talking about friendships with people who aren't followers of Jesus, even though those are really important friendships. But let me explain. C.S. Lewis says friends have something in common. And Christian friends have the most important thing in common. The deepest thing in common. Because Christian friends are both followers of Jesus, and that means they have made Jesus the priority of their life. So today we're zoning in on our friendships with other Christ followers. And Jesus not only talked about it, he modeled it. He had friends. But this is what he said to his disciples about filial love. He said, "A new commandment I give to you, that you love one another, just as I've loved you. You also are to love one another. By this, all people will know that you are my disciples if you have love for one another." Paul, of course, was the guy who started all these churches, and he would pastor these new believers, and he knew that community and friendship were so critical to a person growing in their faith. And he knew that what Jesus said was right, that people would think Christians are different because they actually love each other. This should distinguish Christians. All throughout the New Testament, both Paul and others invite Christians to have this filial love. Here's some of them. From Romans, love one another with brotherly affection. Outdo one another in showing honor. From 1 Thessalonians, now concerning brotherly love, you have no need for anyone to write you, for you yourselves have been taught by God to love one another. From Hebrews, let brotherly love continue. And from 1 Peter, finally, all of you have unity of mind, sympathy, brotherly love, a tender heart, and a humble mind. Well, this morning, I want to make a case with you for you to invest in filial love. See, God gave it to you as a gift. And because of your commitment to Jesus, friendships with other believers will enhance your life. It will help you grow. It will change you for good. Now, here at Grace, we do all sorts of things, and we try to find all kinds of ways to help you connect and begin to make friendships. I mean, even these name tags are intentional. Maybe you've been sitting beside someone for a couple weeks and you didn't get their name the first time, but today, memorize it. Look at their face. Look at their name tag. Get it, right? Because that might be the very beginning of a friendship. Every program we do, every Bible study we do, the coffee hour between the worship services, all those things are designed for you to connect with each other. And I'm really, really looking forward to our new campus where we'll have more space on Sunday morning, where it will be easier to connect, and more space during the week so we can do that. See, here's the deal. We know that finding community is key for you. You can love the worship service and love the programs, but if you don't have people who know you here, you're going to go away. You're not going to stay. And you're not going to grow in your faith the way God intends. See, God made you with this longing for belonging. You are wired not only to be connected to God, but be connected with other believers. But here's another thing we know. You can easily hide here at Grace. You can come in and during the last song kind of dart out, and no one would know you, and you would miss out on this philia, this friendship love that's God's plan for you. See, without friendship, without philia, you are missing out on what God wants for you here at Grace. So let me make the case for you why you need filial love. First, you need mirrors in your life. Now, what do I mean by that? I want to kind of compare Facebook friends with philia friends. You'll get what I'm trying to get at. Facebook friends, of course, they see what you want them to see, right? You've got this buffer between your real life and your social media life. People can only see the things that you want them to see. That's a Facebook friend. A philia friend's different. A philia friend sees all of you. And a philia friend actually loves you anyway. A philia friend shows you, they're a mirror in your life. They show you what your life is really like. They tell you the truth. They're real. They walk with you and they help you see that life really will get better when you're having a down time in your life. They'll be with you in the good times and the bad times. Philia friends, you can call them at 3 o'clock in the morning when you need them. Philia friends see for you when you can't see what the next step in your life is. See, because of their commitment to Jesus and because of your commitment to Jesus, you're connected to each other. Philia friends are faithful friends because of that common commitment you have, and they want what's best for you. but they're a mirror. They tell you the truth about your life. There's another thing you need, and you can't have it if you don't have filial love, and that's you need motivators in your life. Let me go back to Facebook friends. Facebook friends can like your accomplishment. You know how they can hit the thumbs up button, or even if it's really good, they can give you a heart, right? But philia friends, they can invite you to accomplishments that you haven't even done before. Philia friends invite you to be all that God wants you to be because they know you. And they see things in you that you don't even see in yourself. Philia friends invite you to go deeper in your faith. They get inside your head and they challenge you to be true to God's plan for your life. I love that proverb that iron sharpens iron, right? That's what philia friends do for you. They make you better. They push you. They challenge you. They motivate you. Here's how Hebrews says it. It says, hey, read this one with me. And let us consider how to stir up one another to love and good works, not neglecting to meet together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. See, God can use friendship, this philia, to stir up things in your life. But I hope you notice the end of that. You got to be meeting together and growing that friendship if you're going to allow this kind of impact on your life. They've got to know you. You need philia. You need Christian friendships to help you live out your commitment to Jesus. We've been talking about C.S. Lewis the last couple of weeks, and C.S. Lewis had one of these kinds of friendships with a guy by the name of J.R.R. Tolkien. There's a book called The Gift of Friendship, and it tells all about these two friendships. The two men, of course, they were colleagues at Oxford before they published their books, and C.S. Lewis, the Narnia Chronicles, and J.R.R. Tolkien, of course, the Lord of the Rings. And when they met, C.S. Lewis wasn't even a Christian. And he credits Tolkien for helping him find his way to faith. The two of them were part of this group of friends, these Oxford faculty members called the Inklings. And they met regularly. A couple weeks ago, I showed you the pub that they met regularly in. But part of what they did in that group was to share the things that were going on in their life, to share their accomplishments. And for them, it was often books that they were writing. Well, Tolkien, if you know anything about his story, he was very confident, very confident. And he was a great writer. But he would tell you that he needed the encouragement of a good friend to take him where God wanted him to be. This is what he said of C.S. Lewis. He said, the unpayable debt that I owe to C.S. Lewis was not influence, as it is ordinarily understood, but sheer encouragement. He was for long my only audience. Only from him did I ever get the idea that my stuff could be more than a private hobby. But for his interest and unceasing eagerness for more, I should never have brought The Lord of the Rings to a conclusion. Do you see what's happening here? Tolkien and Lewis had this friendship where they encouraged each other to live into their gifts. I mean, can you imagine life without Narnia and The Lord of the Rings? I can't. Those have been important to me and to so many others. God used C.S. Lewis in Tolkien's life, and we got The Lord of the Rings. But it was also true that Tolkien's faith inspired and guided C.S. Lewis all the way to faith and his commitments. See, philia love guides us to do things that we might never do without it. Philia love helps us do things we could never do without each other. If you've got this filial love in your life, there's something bigger than you that can happen because of it. If you're a student of history, you can probably think of a lot of examples. Friendships have begun faith movements. Friendships have developed entire areas of thought. Friendships have dreamed dreams together and built businesses together and made beautiful art together. See, God has plans for your philia love. If you've got it, you are a part of a movement. Let me explain what I mean. N.T. Wright is the great Anglican bishop and theologian, and he wrote a book called The Day of the Revolution. And the book talks about how Jesus' death and resurrection formed this people. The people who said yes to Jesus, it made them this community. And that community was designed by God to change the world. Here's how Wright says it. He said, the world is actually going to change as a result. Through the life and the work and the witness of those who believe this good news. You see what's happening? You need God in your life, but you need people in your life. And as you develop this community, God uses the community. What I'm trying to say is God has plans for us, Grace Church, for your friendships to make a huge impact on our city and on the Lehigh Valley. I want you to take a second and just look around you. This is kind of awkward because you're all looking at me, but look around at everybody in the room. Oh boy, you do not like doing this. This is awesome. This is so awkward. Okay, I say that. I wanted you to look at each other because, hey, God made you to be friends. God made you to be friends. It is not an accident that any of you are sitting here today. It's not an accident that you chose that same seat you sit in every single week. And someone new came and sat beside you, and then you met them. There is nothing that is accidental about God putting you, Grace Church, together. Here's how C.S. Lewis describes that. He says, in friendship, we think we have chosen our peers, our friends. In reality, a few years difference in the dates of our births, a few more miles between certain houses, the choice of one university instead of another, the accident of a topic being raised or not raised at a first meeting, any of these chances might have kept us apart. But for a Christian, there are, strictly speaking, no chances. A secret master of ceremonies has been at work. Christ, who said to the disciples, "Ye have not chosen me, but I have chosen you," can truly say to every group of Christian friends, "You have not chosen one another, but I have chosen you for one another." The friendship is not a reward for our discriminating and good taste in fighting one another out. It is the instrument by which God reveals to each of us the beauties of others. Hear this. Christ chose you to be together. He chose you for one another. How powerful is that? God brought you together, Grace Church, and He keeps growing you. You're growing deeper in your faith, but you're also growing in numbers. Some of you are here for the first time today, but you are going to stay, and you're going to grow, and you're going to find friends. And all of you together, God has a plan for you, for us. And His plan is that we would shine the love of Jesus into the Lehigh Valley. You know, we talked a lot about shine in the fall as we were dreaming about our future and our future campus. But shine was a whole lot more than a capital campaign theme. Shine is really a description of the ministry that God has given us to do together. It's a philosophy of ministry. You met Jesus. You gave your life to Jesus. You come together as a community on Sundays, but on Sunday afternoons, man, we scatter out of here to every single part of the Lehigh Valley. And you shine the love of Jesus to the world. And as they see you loving, they want in. They want to be a part of it. I want you to see this Shine video again with that lens on. I want to remind you, why are we doing what we're doing? Well, here it is. We want to change the Lehigh Valley.
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Now the earth was formless and empty. Darkness was over the surface of the deep, and the Spirit of God was hovering over the waters. And God said, "Let there be light." And there was light.
We at Grace Church feel the Spirit hovering over Bethlehem. The waters are moving. There's anticipation in the air. What is God going to do next? What is His plan for our church and our city? And how can we be a part of it? Jesus has already given us the answer. He said, "I am the light of the world." But He doesn't stop there. He points at us and says, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." We are called to shine. God is doing something special at Grace. With His sovereign hand, God is leading us and inviting us to trust Him now more than ever. Grace is shining and growing, and our community is noticing. New people of all ages and stages are being drawn to this light, curious about these shining followers who are committed to Jesus Christ, to each other, and to the community where God has placed us. We long to recapture the heart of our city's founders and the heart of Bethlehem. Like then, many people living all around us do not yet know Jesus. They don't know how He can change their lives for good. Almost 50% of our neighbors self-identify as nuns. They have no religious affiliation, no faith connection, no church home. We long to introduce these nuns to the one, because as lives change through Jesus, our community will change for generations and for good. We have a vision that is bigger than we are, and to achieve it, we need a church home that shines. Putting down physical roots is essential. It's time for us to move from portable to permanent. There's no substitute for a permanent church campus if we're serious about mission and ministry and impact. God has led us to a strategic location in one of the fastest growing areas in the valley. There, we will be visible and accessible to all of Bethlehem and the Lehigh Valley. The home we envision isn't just for us. It's for our friends and neighbors, co-workers and teammates, for the next generation and for the next person to walk through our doors. It is truly for Bethlehem and for the Lehigh Valley. It'll be an asset to the neighborhood, inviting to all, schools, community groups, support groups, performing arts. It will foster community and friendships and reflect gratitude for our rich heritage while looking forward to the future. It will be a place to shine grace. Marriages will start here. Children and new believers will be baptized here. Seekers will find answers here. Disciples will grow here. The hurting will find comfort here. Serving will happen here. People will be launched on mission here. But most of all, people will meet Jesus here, the light of the world. Together, we are taking the next step, trusting God and making an unprecedented investment to build a place that will shine today so that many more for generations to come will shine. Yeah, that's awesome. Do you want in on that? Do you want to be a part of a movement that others will want to be in on? That's shining. That's loving. That's showing your love and letting it change our city. Do you want mirrors in your life? Do you want motivators in your life? Are you willing to be a mirror or a motivator? Then you need philia love. Now, before we wrap up, I want to give you a very practical challenge, a practical next step. Justin Earley wrote this book called The Common Rule, and he writes a lot about the importance of friendship in your Christian development, your spiritual growth. And he says in order to have this kind of philia friendship, you need two things. You need vulnerability and you need time. And he recommends how you begin to take steps towards that filial love, and it's a pretty big challenge. He says that you need to spend 1 hour a week with a friend. 1 hour a week to develop this kind of love that can be life-shaping and life-giving for you. And I love, he says, a part of that hour should be asking this question to each other. Is there anything you aren't telling me? Is there anything you aren't telling me? This week, challenge, will you begin a friendship? Will you try to find 1 hour with that person? Maybe you've already got a friend and you know you need to invest more in it so it can be this kind of friendship. I invite you just to close your eyes for a minute because I want to spend a few minutes praying together about this important part of our life. So would you just, before God, would you ask God to work in your life and to help you make good friends? And be honest with God. If you do not have the friends that you need, would you ask God to show you the right people to give you friends? Take a minute and pray for yourself. Now, I've said that this friendship is a community thing, a grace thing. So I want you to open your eyes and look to the person who's on your right. Okay, you may not know them, but you can at least see their name. Okay, pray just a sentence prayer for them. Would you pray that they would have friends in their life? Would you do that right now? All right, look at the person to your left. Go ahead and do that. Again, you may not know them, but you can know their name because of their name tag. Pray for them. Would you pray that they would have friends in their life? This kind of philia friend. And we believe prayers work. And God's hearing these prayers. Last, would you pray for Grace Church? Would you pray that Grace Church would be a place where people become friends and where our friendships become part of a movement that more people will know Jesus? Would you pray for Grace Church? God, hear our prayers. Would you teach us how to love each other? Would you keep moving in Grace Church by your Spirit so that friendships wouldn't be casual, that they would run deep? Would you keep making us a place where we aren't lonely and where we tell the truth about who we are? And where we find our place and our calling. And would you keep making us a place where everyone sees our love for each other. And not only do they see it, but God, they want in on it because it's clearly your work in us. God, by the power of your Spirit, we pray in the name of Jesus, who taught us how to have friends.